Here's the first things you should do when the Brimstone Sands update goes live in New World. I think the new edition of Brimstone can be pretty overwhelming at first. You might want to do absolutely everything on offer, but it's actually going to take you a little while before you can do that. But let's talk about the first things that I think most people are going to want to do. Before we do that though, a big shout out to my YouTube members. Thank you very much to you guys. If you want to support the channel, that's the best way to do so. Okay, so let's start in with the first thing I think most people are going to want to do. And that is to actually unlock your Heart Rune gems. Now to do this, you're actually going to have to get into Brimstone Sands. You do that by request in either Shattered Mountain, Ebon Scale or Great Cleave, depending on what faction you are. And then the way you will unlock them is to do your main story quest up until a certain point. You will then unlock a side quest, which is, I believe it's at Thoth, which I can't really pronounce, but I'll show on the screen. You do that quest, and I'm not going to explain how you do that quest here, and you actually unlock the ability itself, as well as being provided one heart rune of the blue tier. I think it's Cannon Blast, but don't hold me to that. The next step in your journey when it comes to heart runes, though, is a little bit more complicated. You're going to need a lot of materials to upgrade them, and you're going to want the other types of heart runes, and they come from the expedition, so you're going to want to run certain expeditions to get the heart runes that you want. I'll leave a link to my previous created sexy spreadsheet, which shows like where the drops come from and what materials you need to like upgrade them. But I think unlocking your heart rune gems, probably one of the things that a lot of people are going to want to do very quickly. I think another thing that a lot of people are going to want to do quickly is to get a greatsword. There's probably going to be 4 main ways of getting a greatsword. For us cheapskates out there, well, there is a quest that is actually going to give you a greatsword relatively early on. Effectively, you can get a greatsword by doing a quest called Honoring the 19th. And again, it's sort of a similar story to the heart runes. You have to do the main story quest until it unlocks, and then you just do the quest and you'll get a decent greatsword. It's not amazing because it comes with like Corrupted Bane, Trenchant Strikes and Mortal Power, but you know what it'll do if what you want to do is like take the greatsword and just level through Brimstone Sands with it, which is probably what I'm going to do. The next one is sort of something you're probably going to want to do that isn't necessarily related to the greatsword specifically, but everybody will want to do, and that is the Halloween event. So with the Halloween event, there's a guy you can talk to in town. You need to make sure you talk to him before you go kill the first boss, because that unlocks the store, and essentially he gives you patterns. Now, I believe there's a greatsword pattern in there, so you're going to want to make sure you just do the event, and then you can either craft the greatsword, because maybe you want that expertise, or craft anything else you like, you know what I mean? You don't have to be tied to just the greatsword. Crafting the greatsword, though, would actually be a good way of getting your expertise up, I believe. The third way of getting a greatsword is to just craft it. There's ones that you can craft that are like specifically named items where you need like a specific set of requirements, or you can gamble craft. Either way, like that's up to you. And the fourth way is actually sort of interesting, and that is to do world drops. Now, they're not world drops because you have to go and specifically farm them in the open world. They're generally dropped by specific bosses, but there's some decent legendary greatswords that you can go ahead and farm, and I think the bosses are on like 4-minute cooldowns, so you'll probably, you know, see these mentioned. I'm not going to tell you the best ones because I don't know, but just keep in mind that that's one way to go ahead and farm a greatsword. And then the next thing I think you're going to want to do is relatively simple. I've already mentioned it a few times, and that is simply to finish the main story quest. There's cutscenes and stuff like that this time, and I suspect there's going to be good rewards along the way. I haven't personally finished it on the PTR because I try not to ruin things for myself. I'm a relatively casual player and I don't want to do the same content twice. It would just take the fun away from it for me. But go ahead, do the main story. It's as easy as ever to follow because there's a specific icon for it. It's going to be something that a lot of players are going to want to do, and I suspect there's good stuff during it. And the next category, I'm sort of putting in the same thing, but it's actually sort of 2 different things. So I'm talking about the new gems, the rune glass gems, as well as just in general gold farming, because I think this is where a lot of gold is to be made in this update because the demand's going to be high. So basically you have 3 options, I think. You can either farm the stuff yourself and craft it yourself, or you can farm the stuff and then sell the stuff, or you can just not farm, just ignore this and then buy it later down the line. I'm personally going to go with option 2. I'm probably going to farm some stuff, sell it, and then in a few months time, or maybe like a month or whatever, when the hype has died down a little bit, maybe during Fresh actually, I'll probably buy back because the materials I think will be cheaper in a couple of weeks. And this is just going to be a good big gold making opportunity. So what am I actually talking about? Well, there's certain materials that are new to the game that I think are going to be in high demand. One of the main ones will be sulfur and sulfur chunks. Now these actually come from Brimstone Sands, but there's a specific node called Brimstone. They will give you sulfur chunks. You'll convert these sulfur chunks by combining it with some obsidian flux, and you'll make actual sulfur. That sulfur is going to be used for the heart runes themselves as well as rune glass, so I think there's going to be quite a high demand on that, and it's going to be relatively rare. Generally, they're at these like acid pools, so you're probably going to want to make these like acid tinctures that'll make it so you don't take the acid damage. I think you actually get some from a quest, but I can't find that now. But yeah, sulfur is going to be a big bottleneck, I believe. There's other ones like sandstone. Sandstone, I think there's actually more of it than brimstone, but maybe I'm wrong. You get sandstone blocks from the sandstone node, and then with that sandstone block, it's very difficult for me to say, you can convert that to charged sand. It's actually the charged sand that is used in the rune glass, but you get that hitting the sandstone nodes, if that makes sense. I think there's also these gypsum nodes, and you can get it from that apparently. But I suspect that charged sand will also be another bottleneck, and again, that'll be where people will be able to sell that for good money, I suspect. And the other thing, and I actually really like this one, but it's a little bit hard to demonstrate, is these glyphs. So as part of the process for creating these rune glass gems, you need specific types of glyphs, as well as some other materials. Now these glyphs, it appears that you can farm them from specific areas on the map, and this is something that I've actually wanted to see done for quite a while. So for example, there's one glyph that maybe you go to a specific area on the map, and that's the only place where the mobs there will drop it, and I really like that. And I suspect that the ones that are the most popular, and I obviously don't know which ones that will be right now, they will be in high demand, and you'll see people farming that for a while. What I like about that is you'll actually see people killing NPCs in a way of farming something, and I think that's nice, and it's sort of a solo opportunity. They're level 63, but I think you're probably going to be able to kill some of them solo, right? So for me, that's the first kind of things I'm going to do when the Brimstone Sands update comes on. That kind of stuff's going to be like in insane demand, so I'm just going to gather everything that I see as I'm going along the game in general. I'm just going to do the main story and like all the quests, and then we'll see where I end up in terms of gold at the end of that. Is there anything obvious that I missed? I was racking my brain. I can't think of anything else that's like obvious. There are some other things, like if you do want to level up your greatsword, well, you might be better going to one of the elite areas or the very good areas for leveling up your weapon. However, I sort of feel like you're just better playing the main story and doing the quests and just holding the greatsword and then doing it later. Like, don't fall behind just to level up your greatsword. At least that's my opinion. As I said, did I miss anything? Do let me know in the comments below, but these really for me will be the first actions that I take when I enter Brimstone Sands. Again, a massive shout out to my YouTube members. I do honestly truly appreciate you guys. But other than that, have a most beautiful day. Like and subscribe. Goodbye.